Billy Deck is known as a restaurateur, nightclub owner, philanthropist, actor, and now he has a new film, Food Roots, that's coming to the Chicago International Film Festival October 19th and 21st. Billy, thank you so much for your time today.
Dude, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You've been working on this film for a long time. What made you want to go through, your family roots and create this project?
Yeah, well, I think I've always wanted to understand my roots back in the islands of the Philippines forever. I mean, I went back and forth my entire life from Chicago back to mostly Quezon City and up north into the Philippines to visit family. But I never really learned the recipes of my ancestors growing up in Chicago, always trying to, fit in. Unfortunately, there was a lot of bullying around, ethnic foods at the lunch table, Filipino food being one of them. I loved Filipino. I love Filipino food. It's what we grew up on 24/7 in the house. Filipino food in Tagalog, 24/7. But as soon as, you start having sleepovers and kids come over after school and they're like, what is that? And, they make fun of you at the cafeteria. You begin to kind of shy away from it a little bit, which is a sad thing. And I just hope that, going back in time to really discover and celebrate these unique recipes that are reflections of our heritage, that every single person on this earth has. Like everyone can do the same thing. I think if, it could inspire others to do the same, I think the conversations that would go around at these tables where people come together over food would be much more colorful and much more, accepting and celebratory.
I mean, I got a chance to see the film and I thought it was just incredible. It was so beautifully done. I got to learn so much about you and your family and have a newfound respect for all the projects and all the passion that you put into them. Because sometimes, you see someone in public and you don't necessarily get to like hear their story. And I feel like anyone who's ever visited one of your restaurants, one of your establishments, or, come across you that like you get to see your motivation and everything that, you've gone through, continue to go through, with this movie.
Well, I'm freaking out because you're like one of the first to see it. So I'm super nervous. My hands are sweating. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's like it's just it was, it's something that just came out of nowhere. And I originally just, had two of my last remaining elders in the Philippines die on the same day. And I just dropped everything and left Chicago and just went there. And thankfully I'd filmed there before and I knew some kind of renegade shooters and guys that jumped in boats and motorcycles and climbed mountains with me and, would just search high and low for these family members that were just, I hadn't seen a recipe and learned recipes that I just were never passed down. And here we are. I met a wonderful Filipina director named Michelle Houseway, who really is the genius behind pasting this story together with so much old footage from when I was a little kid, things from the Philippines, things from Chicago back in the day. And we had an executive producer who won a bunch of Academy Awards, and his name's Doug Blush. He really was just a guiding light as well for us. And it really turned out to be something really amazing. I mean, I'm blown away every time I see it. And I watched it a bunch of times through the editing process, worried that I'd be bored one day, but I mean, I still like, it's pretty emotional, as I'm sure. Let me ask you a question and don't lie.
Okay,
Did you cry?
I did. I think anybody who grows up first generation or second generation who's trying to assimilate or trying to fit in or trying to explain why people speak a different language or people eat different foods or people have different traditions, it's hard because you want to be with your friends at school. Like it's a tough thing growing up and not
Yeah.
maybe having the support. So I think I saw a lot of like what you have gone through in like the stories that like my family had told me. So I think hearing that and then some of what happened with like your brother and your dad, that made me tear. I teared up a lot. Like I laughed, I smiled, but I had a large range of emotions in the hours I watched this movie.
I know, 54 minutes just twisted your mind. It just means you're human. I mean, it's just the
Yeah.
human story. It's a lot about just, another life. And we all have those challenges. We did pre-screenings for feedback in LA, in Chicago, Nashville, and purposefully, intentionally fill the audience with complete diversity, in every way, background, age, anything you can imagine, ethnicity, and everyone found their own meaning in it, because there's family issues, mental health issues, bullying, you know, individual characteristics that, just many times people have to grapple with whether they live those out loud and proud or they hide them.
Yeah.
And, it's just a human story that like, it just, I just, yeah, I just feel like it's a tough time for everyone right now, generally. And, there's a journey for everyone that, could be tough at times and then could reach sort of, a place where comfort and
Yeah.
caring, finds its way. And so, yeah, I think, incredibly, I find myself not talking about food as much. I mean, the food is outrageous, as you saw, and it's beautiful, and it's so layered and storied and fantastic. The but the sort of the second part of the title, Roots, is kind of where we all end up, and we all start thinking about our roots and who or how we got here, and what that really means about our own identity, like our own individual identity. And that's really meaningful stuff, and so I'm super excited to share it. And I really appreciate that you had a reaction to it, an emotional reaction to it. And yeah, I've talked to you before and I've never seen you light up like this, so I'm excited.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to touch a lot of people. They're going to have their own stories, and I think sometimes when you're being bullied or you have some struggles, that it drives you in a certain way, and maybe you don't necessarily realize that until later in life. Like, do you feel like you would have become who you ultimately have become if it wasn't for that bullying or that?
No, yeah, and I'm really conflicted about that situation because, I served on the White House Bullying Prevention Task Force. I was appointed by the president in 2014 to the President's Advisory Commission on Asian Americans Pacific Islanders. I found out that Asian Americans were bullied 20% more than any other racial group. I expressed my extreme anger about that, and I was appointed to this White House Bullying Prevention Task Force where I talked to kids from kindergarten to senior year in college, cross country, and that imbalance, that abuse of an imbalance of power, really came down to one thing in common, was like oddly content. It was what they were exposed to growing up, whether it was regurgitated characteristics, word usage, storylines that were either wrong or twisted, that made them feel disgust or dislike or anger even. It was all came down to that content, and then definitely growing up, there was a lack of content around how beautiful the 7,641 islands of the Philippines and the food and the people and everything was. It was always these one or two sound bites that were just really negative. But I, as much as that was painful, I think that really helped me, work harder to, want to better myself, to make sure that, I had the ability to fix things or to make an impact later in life. And it just so happens that this sort of full circle moment happened with this story, which is content, and if this story can, excite, invigorate, inspire others to go back into their own heritage and their own ancestry and learn the recipes, of their family and pass them forward, they're going to learn a lot about themselves. And then in doing so, food is that sort of magic, commonality coming together, experience that brings, different stories, perspectives, gems uh, to newcomers and to first time, folks that have never heard stuff like that before. So it'll make for a lot of content creation, a lot of new, you know, uh, ways in which to teach people about how beautiful the world really is with all of its diversity.
Did you change any of the recipes at Sunda, or did you add anything, or while you were making this movie, especially like going back and seeing different techniques or different ingredients, where you're like, oh, let's
Yeah.
incorporate this? Like, I
Yeah.
feel like your mind is always like turning at all the times. Like, how was it during the film making of this movie?
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that, especially for Filipino American History Month in October. There's a particular dish. You saw this one dish that was, kind of mind-blowing for me. And whenever I say it, I know people are cringing because it's a snail dish, but we also know that growing up, some of the most, fancy escargot and other type dishes were snail dishes, but that's okay. But when they're picked fresh from the rice field by kids actually working in the field that morning, it's like, oh, that's, um, well, that particular dish, which was so beautiful, that scene, I thought, because literally I thought they went to the market or something, but they were literally picking them all these ingredients, the lemongrass and the peppers and all these amazing things from their garden. Well, the surroundings. It was like I call it a garden. It's just outside.
Yeah.
And Chef Mike Morales at Sunda, we had fun, evolving that. He made it with mussels, and instead of a particular ingredient that is a little tougher to source, especially now that we opened Sunda Nashville and we just opened Sunda Tampa. We were in the South. He used collard greens with it. So we had a lot of innovative, inventive fun, with the dishes. And I think that's what it's about. I don't think you have to do exactly what your past was about, but it informs you. It informs you about, why you are the way you are, and what your DNA, your wiring is really like, and that it's okay, that it makes sense. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean from that moment on, with confidence and comfort in who you are, you can't begin to evolve and experiment and collaborate with all the things around you. And I think that's actually the point. So I think we're better able to do that if we are secure with ourselves, and we understand and we accept and enjoy and appreciate all that's been put into us to make us, in our sort of generational, inputs and influences. So that's really, and so we have a lot of fun with it, and we share it at Sunda for sure. We constantly, we're bringing kamayans back, like this 40-foot long island feast on these banana leaves that we lay out and bring out, a dozen or so amazing Filipino dishes in a parade of family or chefs, and then we put it all out for everyone to eat with their hands, because kamay means hand, and it's called kamayan. And it's just this beautiful feast that people come together and are one with their hands connected to the food. And there's just amazing history behind that, and it's just magical to see folks in such a digital age navigate, because they can't use their phone anymore. Right?
Yeah, you're using both your hands. You have to eat.
Yeah. So it's really interesting, to see that.
Awesome. Well, Billy, thank you so much for your time today. Food Roots coming to us to the Chicago International Film Festival, October 19th and the 21st. There's over 100 films that are featured in the festival. And we're so proud of you. This is such an amazing movie, and I hope everybody goes out and checks it out.
Oh man, thank you so much. That's the best. Thank you so much.
All right. It was great to see you.
Yes, great to see you too. Thank you.
Thank you.